When a mother drinks, she exposes her baby to alcohol. Beer, wine, hard liquor, wine coolers, all can cause birth defects. The National Organization for Fetal Alcohol Syndrome in Washington, D.C. works to help the thousands of children and families whose lives are impacted by fetal alcohol syndrome.
The latest figures suggest that as many as 12,000 newborns every year are affected with the full fetal alcohol syndrome, and then as many as 3 times greater are affected by alcohol-related birth defects or alcohol-related neurodevelopmental disorder. So all told, in the neighborhood of 50,000 newborns every year are affected.
Scientists know that all people affected cannot be identified by physical features alone. But alcohol-related birth defects were first recognized because of the way severely affected children looked.
Okay, now your ears.
Only doctors can make a correct diagnosis of fetal alcohol syndrome. The facial features of FAS include small eyelid openings, short upturned nose, long upper lip from nose to mouth with a thin red border and a deficient central groove, reduced head size.
Tell me this, what are you going to be when you grow up?
Dr. Luther Robinson is a pediatrician in Buffalo, New York, who is familiar with the identification and treatment of FAS.
People who have fetal alcohol syndrome have eyes that are smaller than normal, and that's because alcohol affects the developing eye as it comes out of the brain. People who have fetal alcohol syndrome have smaller heads than average, and that's called microcephaly. And again, that reflects the impact of alcohol or the byproducts of alcohol on the developing brain and nervous system. People who have fetal alcohol syndrome, a number will have differences in the lines in their hands, and those lines in their hands represent fetal movement. And the fetal hand starts to move at about 8 weeks after the baby is conceived. And so we know that movement depends on how the nerves go to the muscles, and the muscles start to make the contractions and pull on the tendons and so forth. And so again, we're talking about a problem of differences in movement long before the baby is even born, sometimes before a woman even knows that she's pregnant. The profiles of children and teenagers and adults who have fetal alcohol syndrome relate to difficulties with problem solving. If you visited my apartment and I said, get the knives and forks, you would think the knives and forks likely are in the kitchen, in the cupboard, in a drawer, with the spoons. And that's how we would problem solve that problem, that challenge. But for a person who has fetal alcohol syndrome, some of those associations don't seem to fit, so that problem solving is especially difficult. So whereas you and I just take for granted, go to the kitchen, look in the drawer, pull it open, look for the spoons and forks, and here's a knife, that doesn't happen with some people with fetal alcohol syndrome. Pull out the knife, it's working almost by trial and error to come up with an answer. And that's just not an effective or efficient way to do problem solving. And that's one of the challenges of people who have fetal alcohol syndrome.
Alcohol-related birth defects last a lifetime. For Linda and the thousands of other parents who struggle with the permanent effects of FAS, the future remains unclear.
I worry about whether he'll be able to hold down a job, whether he'll be able to go into the store and know what he can buy for 20 bucks. Yeah, I hope that he makes it on his own. I want him to have it all. So that's my biggest hope, is that he has a job, and he has children, and he has a happy life.
Doctors and scientists don't know what a safe level of alcohol is for a developing child. Health advisors warn any woman who is considering pregnancy or is pregnant to avoid the use of any alcohol.